Happy Friday. Welcome to the NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, getting you ready for a big weekend. NBA, Stanley Cup, and we're less than a week away from the World Cup as well. We'll break it all down for you here on the show. Our friend Adam Kaufman will be with us for the latest in the NBA. We'll also hit on some hockey, some Major League Baseball as well. Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report joins us, and then Jack McMullen from Just Baseball as he gets ready for a big baseball weekend. The month of June is here, and the first weekend of June is here as well. Let's get to our top story of the day. The biggest story in terms of scandal in the NBA involving sports betting last year comes with free agent Terry Rozier. Now it looks like he's got to forfeit most of his salary for the 2025-26 season because of his role in that sports gambling scheme. That's what they have ruled earlier this year, that Rozier should have received a salary because NBA rules didn't allow unpaid leave in cases like this. But as of right now, despite him pleading not guilty, right now, it looks like he's going to have to return that salary. And, of course, he has no future playing in the NBA ever again. But he can watch the game tonight between the Knicks and Spurs. And, man, this line is certainly climbing. As of right now, San Antonio has moved up to 6.5-point favorites tonight against the Knicks with a total of 215.5, which is down from opening night in the NBA Finals, which was 218.5. So let's get to some audio here and hear from Karl Anthony Towns, and says that he doesn't think about taking a 2-0 lead, and says the Knicks are thinking that the series is now 0-0.
The difference between leaving here 1-1 and 2-0, knowing that they've come back in a few series already, how important is it to not give them, any hope or any momentum and kind of putting your foot down here and taking that 2-0 lead?
I mean, for me, I don't think of anything like that, the 1-1, 2-0. I just think it's 0-0. And the next game is the most important game of the year. So just continue to stay in the present, not worry about what the future may look like, not worry about what we've done in the past. Just cancel all that out and just worry about the present. Tomorrow we step on that court, should be the same determination, desperation, energy level, and physicality needed for a Game 1 win.
Meanwhile, the other side of the coin, of course, is Victor Wembanyama, who didn't have his best game in Game 1, just says the Spurs need to play how they played during the regular season, and that should tell the story.
Now, what do you think normal means for you guys?
Normal means trusting each other, trusting the basketball guys, trusting the game plan, executing, and not relying on talent so much to make shots or to save the day. I mean, we've been playing a certain way all season, and we've been successful this way, and there's no reason to change the day the finals start.
The biggest injury, meanwhile, in Major League Baseball has officially occurred. It is to Yankees All-Star and MVP Aaron Judge. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a stress fracture around his rib area. The Yankees do believe that he will return at some point this season. There was some discussion that he had met with a doctor that was involving thoracic outlet surgery, which naturally would end his season. But as of right now, that does not appear to be the case. Aaron Judge going on the IL through the All-Star break without a doubt. Meanwhile, so the Yankees are going to have to win with pitching, and they got it yesterday. Carlos Rodon led New York to a 2-1 win. Rodon struck out 7 in 6 innings. Jazz Chisholm also had a nice offensive game, driving in some runs. Here's Jazz on the pitching performance of his starter.
Jazz, what did you think of Carlos today?
Oh, no, he was back to himself today. He looks like he was out there, good tempo, hitting all his spots. He looked really good.
When you say back to yourself, you mentioned the tempo and the spots, but anything about his stuff, aside from that, the pitches he was throwing, that stood out?
No, I just felt like he was out there with his swagger, He was that bulldog rooster, that we always call him. But, he was out there, he felt good, and he threw the ball really well.
Dodgers and Diamondbacks end up splitting their 4-game series because the Diamondbacks won last night, scoring 2 runs in the 8th to outlast the Dodgers 3-2. It was Ketel Marte's shot that turns out to be the difference maker, walking off the Dodgers with a 3-2 win. Here's Torey Lovullo on the split of the series and the walk-off home run.
He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And he's looking to do something amazing at the most critical time of the game. So it's just his personality. And I saw Scott warming up. I knew what the rotation was going to be. I knew that there was going to be an opportunity for Ketel to get on that side of the plate where he's been swinging a real hot bat. And I just felt like if he was going to be able to get a pitch, he could end the game in one swing of the bat. So certainly fun to watch. His reaction is always entertaining, but he deserved that moment.
Also in the National League, the Phillies have put themselves in the wild card spot by beating the Padres 6-4. They end up sweeping San Diego for the second time in a week. How about that? Zach Wheeler, 8 strikeouts in 7 innings pitched. He recapped his strong outing against the Padres.
Fastball was playing well. Struggled a little bit with the sweeper, but a few were good, and a lot of split fingers today. That was working for me. So, I've faced these guys so much that we kind of went about it a tiny bit differently. Usually throw a lot of sinkers in the righties, and today we just kind of stayed away or tried to. A couple of them tailed back in, but it was flying good, even though it was tailing back over the plate, and Manning got me on that one, but I feel like if I would have got that one there, JT's had that, he should have called a sweeper, but if I executed that pitch away, I think we would have got him again, or at least the setup for something else. So, other than that, it went really good.
Speaking of walk-offs in the National League, it was an interleague battle between the Cubs and A's going to the Cubs. They win as home favorites. They actually trailed 6-3 heading into the 9th inning, but scored 4 runs to win it. Pete Crow Armstrong hit a home run in the game, and I had a walk-off single as Chicago beats Sacramento 7-6. Here's Dansby Swanson, who had a hit to tie the game at 6.
I think that is this group, right? Just the pass the baton, take your at bat, be committed to one another. Like that 9th inning was like the true embodiment of this group, and it was so fun to be able to see it kind of come out. Like we definitely needed it. It was a big game for us, and to be able to win it in that fashion is something that you can definitely build momentum on moving forward.
Momentum is what the Baltimore Orioles have as they beat the Red Sox and take the series against Boston. 8-2 the final yesterday as Brian Bayo, the Red Sox starter, gave up 8 runs in 5 innings and was optioned to AAA after the game. But the Orioles seemingly had a hot start and have playing better as of late. Here's their skipper, Craig Albernaz, on the hot start.
Early inning struggles this year. How much fun was it to get 6 runs right off the bat?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great job by our offense coming out ready from pitch 1. Obviously, Wardy setting the tone, and it was a great job grinding out bats, getting good pitches to hit, running the bases aggressively, and to give, any starter, but Rod's, a 6-run cushion before he even steps on the mound. Really good.
Meanwhile, the San Francisco Giants desperately needed a series win. They got it yesterday against the Brewers. Final score was 12-9. That's right. The Giants, who generally don't score a lot, put up a 12 spot on Milwaukee. Here's manager Tony Vitello on his offense going off.
Bryce getting on base nonstop. And Luis had a great day too. So it's good Rafi came out here with something. So the whole group was great. The only way you win a game like that is if our offense was as electric as they were, and then you probably needed to sprinkle in some good defense too, there were several good defensive plays.
Looks like the fans of the National Hockey League are in for a special treat because this series between Vegas and Carolina could go the distance. Both games right down to the wire. Last night, an overtime game as Carolina, the Hurricanes, beat the Golden Knights by a final of 4-3. Seth Jarvis scored the game-winning goal in overtime for the Hurricanes. Game 3 will be played in Las Vegas on Saturday night. And as you can see with the odds, this is really close. Carolina, a light favorite, about minus 125, 130 in some spots. Vegas, a little bit of plus money. Who knows who's going to win this series, but I have a feeling it could be headed to 7. How about the NBA Finals? Will we get a 7-game series? Probably not if the Knicks win tonight. We'll break it all down with you. Adam Kaufman joins us next. Don't go away.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all been the Atlanta Braves. good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to catch up with Adam Kaufman here of SportsGrid for the latest in the NBA. We'll mix in some other topics as well. We're headed toward Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight. But first, let's recap what happened in Game 1. Adam, a very big surprise, I think, to some, not on the end result, but the way that the game certainly was played. I mean, 105-95 is like a 90s basketball game, which we just don't see a lot, especially with the Knicks scoring so many points in the playoffs. But the Knicks take Game 1. They do it in a way that sort of surprised some folks, I think, playing good defense and really didn't shoot well on offense. Is this the recipe that they have to succeed in the NBA Finals?
So to your point, I kind of read this game exactly the opposite way. I had a same game parlay, just a sprinkle. I didn't put big money on it, of the Knicks to win the first half and the Spurs to win the game, and that was roughly a 5-1 price. As it turned out, we got the exact opposite. Spurs were up at the half, and the Knicks pulled it out with the nice comeback and closing the game on the big run. And Jalen Brunson, after the multiple first-half injuries, some question in the moment as to whether he would even return to the game, ends up going crazy, drops 30. Both he and Wemby, kind of going shot for shot at points, although Wemby doing a lot of his damage at the free throw line, what was a very inefficient shooting night for him. I think, if the Knicks are to win this series, and I know people are ready to throw out the winners of Game 1 of the NBA Finals historically have won the series almost 80% of the time. I don't care. I am, if the Knicks win this game and go up 2-0 on the road, going back home to MSG, I'm just, Craig, going to question everything that I feel like I knew about the sport of basketball. I know there are a lot of very smart people out there, ball knowers, if you will, that have said they expect the Knicks to win this series going into the series, never mind after Game 1. But, I mean, to me, I just think the Spurs are top to bottom the better, the deeper team. That's not to take anything away from all of the talent and the way the Knicks have been playing, not losing a game in almost a month and a half at this point in time, and there are a lot of great players, but I can't ignore, you highlight defense, and maybe it was defense, but I can't ignore the Spurs shot miserably in Game 1. They were just over 30%, from the field, mid-20s from three. I don't think that happens again in Game 2, so I am looking for a bounce back out of the Spurs. I would take them to cover the 6.
Okay, so we'll get to that first. Let's still stick with Game 1 here, and the question is, Jalen Brunson, who's now the favorite to win the MVP of the Finals, had 30, but he shot 12 of 31. His fourth quarter was clearly the difference maker in this game. Do you think that the odds have shifted in a way that you believe this, Adam, or is do you think potentially some value coming from someone else?
I don't want to invest in, a favorite in general to win finals MVP. And looking at that board, yeah, you're getting short plus money on both Brunson and Wemby. And in all likelihood, that's the way it's going to turn out. You go back through NBA history in recent years, and it's, the Giannis's and the SGAs and the Jokic's, the guys that, Steph that you would think would win. But that said, a couple years ago, we got Jaylen Brown, who was the understudy, if you will, to Jason Tatum, going all the way back almost a decade. You get, a real outlier in someone like an Andre Iguodala. I think that, you have to look down the board a little bit. Steph Castle is someone that is still appealing. If you think the Spurs are going to end up taking 4 out of the next 6 games, he at 80-1 is a very valid price to be. Karl Anthony Towns, I don't really believe it, but at 11-1, if what he did in game 1 was not a fluke, not a mirage, if he can keep doing that and continue to just kind of have his way on the inside as he did in that opener in a way that nobody anticipated, again, you're getting good value at that 11-1 number. I got to believe that, as the series rolls along, life is going to get a little bit more difficult for Cat, but man, I mean, if that wasn't an outlier and that is a sign of things to come, he is, 1, the Knicks will win, and 2, he will be a gigantic part of it.
Yeah, absolutely so. If the Knicks win tonight or even come close and lose and Brunson has a big game, he's going to be probably fall back a little bit because if they lose, because whoever would have a big game for the Spurs will move up, but certainly Brunson right now is in the crosshairs for that MVP. So why is the line climbing here? Why is San Antonio up to 6.5-point favorites? I know why the total went down because that's a reaction to game 1, but we do see this when in usually a 7-game series when a team, Adam, loses the first, they become a little bit more of a favorite, but this is pretty significant. This is like 2 points up from where they were at the closing line in game 1.
I think it's less about the personnel. It's not like there was this big injury coming out of game 1. Again, Brunson got dinged up, but he obviously finished strong. There's no concern as to whether he's going to play. There are no notable things to pay attention to on the injury report. I think the bigger thing is just, people investing, moving the line with their money in the belief that, man, I mean, 1, we already thought San Antonio was the better team, most of us, and they were obviously the heavily favored team going into the series. They dropped game 1. Not a big shock that they lost game 1 after all the rest the Knicks had and the war of attrition that San Antonio had to deal with over a 7-game set with Oklahoma City. But now you've seen it. You took the first punch. Now it's time to throw back. You're at home. You can't possibly go back to MSG down 0-2 in this series. I think it's people, there's an intellectual side of it, but I think there's also a little bit of betting with the heart of the belief that San Antonio is not going to get embarrassed on its home floor. San Antonio is going to have a statement game here if it has any hope of winning this series and is the better team, as I believe it is. So like I said, I would lay the number now. 6.5 gets me a little weary, but you could still find some flat 6s out there, and I would invest in that. And yeah, you could push protection if that ends up coming to fruition, but I do expect it to be a close game. The 6 could be sweaty, but I like San Antonio to win.
Okay, fair enough. Let's take a look at Brunson and Wemby's props for tonight. Tell me if there's anything on the board that you like at all. 25.5 on Brunson's points, 2.5 on the rebounds. Heavy juice on that at -148. Assists at 6.5, and then points, rebounds, assists at 41.5. Wembanyama's come back a little bit, as you see here. 27.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. And his point rebound total, 34.5. Anything in particular here?
Well, a bet that I'm ready to lose. I did invest in Wemby under 43.5 PRA, which, that again just kind of goes back to all the trouble that Karl Anthony Towns gave him on the glass and beyond. But he should respond. Hopefully lead them to a victory.
We'll talk some baseball up next. Don't go away. Adam's with us.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins. First team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to talk Red Sox Yankees here to start because we have Adam Kaufman in the house here. And a lot to unpack here with the Red Sox this season. And the Yankees certainly should be favored tonight as they are. These are always matchups that are coin toss matchups, meaning it's like, you know, when LA plays San Francisco, it doesn't matter how good the teams are. The Giants can easily beat the Dodgers. And I think that the Red Sox could pick up a rare series win this weekend in New York. But Adam, it has been a really dismal season for the Boston Red Sox, and yesterday sort of coming to a head for Brian Bayo, who I don't think anybody suspected would have had this kind of start, but it's not a start anymore. We're in the month of June, and they optioned him down to the minor leagues. Is there any digging out of this massive hole that the Red Sox have built themselves? And Adam, I'm not talking about playoffs here, you know, like I'm talking about just like a respectable 500 type season. Is there that end in sight here?
Well, you're looking at a team that's 11 games out, obviously, in the division, and that's a lot to overcome, especially when you're sitting in last because you're talking about leapfrogging a bunch of teams. But as we know, in this recently expanded wildcard format, this team is only 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. Now, yeah, you still got to get by the Astros and the Twins and the Blue Jays and the Orioles before you're even into that conversation with the Rangers, the A's, the White Sox, and so on. But no, I don't think they overcome this. I don't. I think this is a team that is just kind of rotten from the top down in the way that they are managing things. You know, obviously it's ownership's not, you know, unwillingness to pay on top talent. You know, some bad deals, extensions have been given out by management. Craig Breslow, the chief baseball officer, has made some really questionable decisions in terms of the personnel of this roster. They trumpeted going into the year the pitching and the defense, and to be fair, that's been good for the most part, very good. But what they haven't been is a team that can consistently put up runs. You know, it's a run differential here of, it's close, it's about even. That generally is not going to get it done to be a playoff team, but they're not getting embarrassed out there. The thing is, they'll have these, random 6-1 wins, that kind of thing, but they're also getting blown out a fair amount. And not having Garrett Crochet, he's been hurt a good majority of the year, and even when he was out there, he didn't pitch well. That obviously hurts. We're talking about the reigning Cy Young runner-up to Tarek Skubal, but Brian Bayo was supposed to come back and, just continue to live up to some level of promise. He was once compared to Pedro Martinez around here. Guy has been abysmal this year, both on the field and off, in the way that he has handled himself around the media. Now, I don't completely disagree with the notion that if he views himself a starter, he should be a starter. None of this opener nonsense where he comes in after the first inning. But by the same token, the results are the results. He's pitched exponentially better out of the bullpen than he has when he starts a game. I don't know if that's psychological, if it's random result with the top of an order, in opposing lineups, whatever it is. But yeah, this team is an absolute mess and should blow it up, should be sellers come the deadline. And anything that you've got of value, get rid of it and just try and remake this thing, because the makeup that they've got going right now, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just always a hard sell for a rebuild in a major market like Boston. But I agree with you. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel here, and they got to pay. And he's a good pitcher, Ranger Suarez, but now they got to pay him, where if they look back, maybe they should have just sat on their hands and done nothing, and now they're sort of stuck. All right, let's get to a game tonight. Mariners and Tigers here. Finally, the Tigers have woken up. Maybe too late for them too, though, Adam. Framber Valdez pitches for Detroit. Brian Wu, who certainly is one of the highlight starters on the Seattle Mariners staff, total of 7.5. Any leaner opinion on this game tonight?
So I tend to lean into streak betting, which may sound a little silly, but I do it because it's been a profitable trend for me. And so I am invested in the Tigers, winners of 3 in a row in this game. That being said, if I wasn't blind betting streaks, I'd be looking probably at the Mariners, who are narrow favorites, a team that, like you said, I respect Valdez. I just think Wu ultimately is a better pitcher. The Seattle team is, it had a setback yesterday, but has generally been hot and sitting atop the AL West. I'm not going to be terribly surprised either way. I don't have tremendous conviction in this game. It's not one of my favorite bets on the board, but I would, if I, again, wasn't leaning into the streaks trend that I do, and there are a few of those here today that I'm invested in, the Mariners would be the place that I would lean.
All right, so you like the Spurs tonight. Also, you like the Braves. Anyone else?
I like the Braves. I like the Padres. And I probably shouldn't like San Diego with the way that, Michael King has been throwing the ball of late versus Christian Scott on the other side. Scott's coming off a pair of stellar outings against the Marlins, as you well know, but I like the Padres, who have been miserable.
All right, thanks again, Adam. Have a good weekend. Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Game 2 of the finals is tonight. Sam McQuillan will be watching tonight because he roots for the Knicks as they take on the Spurs. But we root for good stories here on the show, and you can find those over at LegalSportsReport.com as Sam joins us to close out the week. Sam, thanks for coming on the show. Okay, really interesting story that you guys posted here over at LSR, which is basically some representatives around the country want some clarity about prediction markets, and they want it from the CFTC. Are we in charge? Are you in charge? Who's making the decisions here? And, quite frankly, I think that this is fair. We got to get some clarity as to if states can run it. Is the government going to run this thing? What exactly is the future hold?
Yeah, it seems to only really be questions and questions and more questions right now, Craig, in this prediction market space, which there was 3 major developments this week in Washington, mainly, where it's becoming, it's becoming increasingly political. It's becoming increasingly charged. You're seeing, last week you saw President Donald Trump take to social media to tout the CFTC's regulation or jurisdiction, rather, over prediction markets, allowing them to exist in all 50 states and allow people to basically do sports betting under these kind of different rules. While obviously on the other side, you have all the states, I think, almost 20 now suing to stop it. You had 3 congressmen and women this week, all Democrats notably, asking the inspector general to investigate the agency, the CFTC, their legal rationale and the resources when it comes to prediction markets. This letter basically lays out, the case and says, under Trump's tenure, you have to look at when sports event contracts became a thing. It was only 3 days after he was sworn into office. That's when Kalshi first launched sports event contracts. And, kind of after that, everyone else followed. Now it's 85% of its business. This letter kind of says since then, the CFTC has rapidly expanded what it believes its jurisdiction to be. It obviously used to just be overseeing derivatives and financial trading, futures of grains, betting. It says it's now expanded that, rapidly into sports event contracts, which takes a lot of resources and time and dedication. Meanwhile, the agency just had major staff cuts. It's down about 30% since Trump took office. And it continues to launch these lawsuits, too. We've seen now the CFTC sue 6 states defending its jurisdiction to regulate these products. At the same time, the letter also lays out that it's actually walked back efforts to actually regulate them. So it basically says they're spending a lot of time and money and resources on defending the right to oversee the products while simultaneously not actually overseeing them. Obviously, there's been a number of, high profile scandals or cases, rather, that's popped up in the space. And we've seen other lawmakers on Capitol Hill introduce bills to try to rein in the space. At the same time, this week also, Republicans from the House Financial Services Committee had a private meeting with Kalshi, Robinhood, and Polymarket, as well as the American Gaming Association, which has been very staunch against allowing these products to do sports betting on their platforms. It was reportedly a private investigation, which came just a day after a report that former Congressman George Santos is now being investigated for allegedly betting that he would not attend the State of the Union address from the president earlier this year, but then bragging that he was going to. And then I think about 3 minutes into the speech, tweeting out that he had logistics problems. So now the Department of Justice is reportedly investigating him as well. Trump pardoned him a couple years ago after I think it was found that he lied about, being a Wall Street trader, and he was, kicked out of Congress. So this is all becoming more political and more questions are being asked. And right now there's not a lot of answers. I think kind of everyone is looking to the courts to figure that out. But at the same time, we have, over a dozen lawsuits playing out across different states. And I don't know if we're going to get answers on this anytime soon, but it certainly looks like there's a lot more questions kind of every day in Washington. I wouldn't be surprised, in a month from now when we come back talking about the next crazy development or ask or scandal. It just seems like it's happening every day now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Sam, the news is out, and it's not a surprise that FanDuel and DraftKings still lead over all of the other sports betting operators and providers. DraftKings shifted into first place, I know, in 2026, maybe late 2025. Beyond that, you can read the story at legalsportsreport.com. What else can you tell us about this report?
Yeah, there's a firm called Eilers and Krejcik, which hires professional testers to give grades to different sports betting apps twice a year. And they put out this report, which historically has been kind of indicative of how well the apps actually do in terms of market share and, their popularity in America. DraftKings has now led the report for, consecutive times as the number one app, leading in 4 out of 5 categories. That includes things like how fast the app works, how just overall the user experience feels, of course, the reward system and bonuses, pricing is also factored in as well. So historically, whenever DraftKings has led, it's also been, number one for that cycle in terms of, having the most bets that people have placed and also, leading all the other apps in revenue. FanDuel wasn't close behind in second place, which, if you know anything about US sports betting, isn't a huge surprise. It's been DraftKings and FanDuel kind of historically for the last couple of years. More of the interesting kind of changes are that Fanatics is now third. It's been the 4th kind of straight report. So full year of Fanatics being in third. The testers noted that it has a really good kind of reward system. Fanatics has this fan cash system where you can use, earn points on what you bet and, use that to buy merchandise or jerseys or pick rewards. So that was kind of their first innovative thing when they launched. Also, obviously Fanatics is privately owned, so it has a little bit of a different kind of just business dynamic and pressures that maybe the other apps don't have. But the thing that kind of stood out to me, Craig, was that BetMGM, which we used to talk about, is kind of knocking on the door of, maybe they'll get to first or second. They certainly were third for a long time. They're now 8th, according to this report, not only in kind of app performance and how well they're doing overall, but also we've seen around the country their market share has slipped as well. Obviously, it's pretty notable that BetMGM, along with Caesars, is one of the only sports betting apps that has not gone into prediction markets so far. This report doesn't take that into account, the prediction market stuff, but it kind of is, important context with how well these companies are doing. MGM as well as Caesars are both up for a sale right now. So I think they obviously don't want to be having their online gaming arm slip at this time. And then, of course, the last thing I want to mention here is that Bet365 is also slipping, which has kind of gone against the grain. It's, dealt out a lot of promos and entered new states and spent a lot of money trying to expand in the US at a time when it kind of looks like every other sports betting app is not expanding. So just kind of some small, interesting developments to watch as the space keeps developing. Same story of DraftKings and FanDuel at top, and then kind of everyone else is shuffling around a little bit.
The state of Arizona, real quick, Sam, appears to be opening up the door for maybe additional sports betting operators here. Why are they making this move?
Yeah, Arizona has had sports betting since 2021. The Department of Gaming just kind of meets every year and figures out if it wants to open up to more applicants. It's a good question. Why are they making this move at this time? They used to have 18 total sports books. Now they only have 13. A lot have exited the space over the last couple of years, but most of the market is still dominated by FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and BetMGM. So it's a question mark of who could be entering the space at this time. But if you know anything about US sports betting, it's kind of when you least expect something to happen is when it does. That's what happened certainly when Fanatics entered the space and PointsBet exited. So this could be opening up the market for kind of a mystery entrant into Arizona, which has been a really key state for sports betting operators. Low tax rate and a lot of betting. So we'll have to keep watching and see who enters or, if anyone ever does it all. But yeah, it's definitely kind of scratching your head as to why now. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, maybe numbers are just simply down in Arizona and they think that this is a way to get people to sign up new accounts, deposits, perhaps. Sam, thanks again. Good luck to your Knicks tonight. We'll talk after the weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Craig. You too.
All right, Sam McQuillan with us from Legal Sports Report. Up next, we got Jack McMullen from Just Baseball. How significant is this Aaron Judge injury to the Yankees? Don't go away.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, First team to 20 wins. First team to 30 wins. First team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
We got Jack McMullen in the house from Just Baseball as he is back off his road trip and ready to deliver some interesting tidbits to us and some Major League Baseball. Of course, will be on play-by-play this weekend, Marlins and Rays. And let's check in with Jack and talk some Major League Baseball around the league. Jack, great to have you back here on the show. Big injury news yesterday and potentially altering the odds markets, of course, not just for the Yankees themselves, but also the American League MVP. You know, we're certainly going to find a new MVP, I think, awarded at the end of the year because Aaron Judge has an injury that they say is going to cost him 4 to 6 weeks. And you know as well as I know, that's what teams do. They put out the best case scenario initially. Now, obviously, nobody wants to even hear the words thoracic outlet surgery. But I know that he did see a doctor that has some expertise in that. Will go and give the Yankees the benefit of the doubt with this initially, Jack. But there was a lot of CT scans and a lot of medical updates before we even got this late yesterday.
Yeah, there was interesting reporting in regards to this, right? Because initially it was a bone bruise in his shoulder that he's been dealing with for a couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden it was a top rib issue, and top rib is almost always related to thoracic outlet, right? So you hope that it's not that case. And it turns out it's just a stress fracture in his top rib. What is the correlation there with the shoulder? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor. The big word here carrying a lot of weight from Brian Hoke is re-imaged in 4 to 6 weeks. So it seems like we could be looking at 2.5 months with Judge out of the Yankee lineup. And to your point, as it pertains to the AL MVP, we're going to have a new one. I think I saw, first time since 2020 that it won't be Ohtani or Judge in the American League MVP chair. So somebody else is going to win AL MVP. Is this finally the year that Bobby Witt Jr. gets his American League MVP? Julio Rodriguez is heating up earlier than he really ever has before. Is Julio going to be that guy if Seattle climbs to the top of the American League West and never looks back? There are plenty of other guys. Yordan Alvarez, how can he swing it? Ben Rice, can he carry the load? Nick Kurtz, is he going to be an on-base machine and hit 45 to 50 home runs this year? There are a whole bunch of guys that are in this conversation right now, and it's a wide-open field. I'm not going to say it's fun because we are deprived of the best hitter in Major League Baseball, but it is different. It's unique to see a wide-open MVP race. Honestly, over the last couple of years, I view the NL MVP as the Ohtani Invitational and the AL MVP as the Judge Invitational, and that's just not the case this year.
Yeah. Do you think, by the way, let's throw those odds back up there. Do you think, Jack, that the MVP, if it's not Ben Rice, comes from a team that loses 90 or 100 games? Because, man, there's a legit shot of that happening. If the Royals just play to their skis right now, they're probably not going to finish 500 or even close. I don't think the Astros are coming anywhere close. And dare I say, I mean, the A's at some point, I think, are going to fall back a little bit. I mean, Ben Rice is the only one out of these top 4 odds that could even be a 500 team this year. That's kind of crazy in June.
And that's why Julio sticks out like a sore thumb right there on the odds right now, because Seattle looks like a team that is going to be in position to make the postseason. But everybody loves the Bobby Witt Jr., Alex Rodriguez comps. This is another one right here, right? Where if Bobby Witt Jr. is on the outside of the postseason picture looking in, and he's putting up A-Rod type of numbers in Kansas City, why couldn't you give it to him? A-Rod, when he signed that huge contract with Texas, he was the best player on a not very good team with the Texas Rangers. So the A-Rod comps are becoming uncanny for Bobby Witt Jr. at this point. But yeah, I mean, Bobby Witt is probably, and through the eyes of WAR, wins above replacement, he has been, the best player in baseball to this point. There is a world that happens. Yordan Alvarez, how much value does a DH have? Can a DH that doesn't even have the opportunity to pitch in Ohtani win an MVP? I have no idea. My eyes go to Bobby Witt at the top and then Julio Rodriguez as well.
I want to move to another awards race, guys. Let's do the National League Cy Young, because this is the most compelling race we've seen in a really long time in Major League Baseball, because you could absolutely make the case right now for any of the top 3. Christopher Sanchez, Jacob Mizorowski, and Shohei Ohtani. The only reason why Paul Skeens fell back is because of his last start. But, I mean, I even see Chris Sale hanging in there. And in another season, Chris Sale may be the Cy Young Award winner right now. What a race we have to the finish here. I don't know how this is going to go.
A ridiculous race, and you look a little bit further down the board, like Chase Burns is thrown to a sub-2 ERA. Kyle Harrison is thrown to a sub-2 ERA in Milwaukee. Braxton Ashcraft has been the best pitcher on the Pirate rotation. It has not been Paul Skeens. So it's a very, very deep race, but at the top, those big 3, and I will throw Sale in there as well, because Sale has earned that. I know he did allow 3 runs in 5 2/3 last night against the Blue Jays, but I mean, Sale has thrown like a Cy Young contender. I'm just going to look at the end of the year, to be honest with you, at 50 2/3 scoreless innings for Christopher Sanchez. I will be looking at a scoreless month in Major League Baseball, and I will view that as the ultimate trump card. How do you beat that? Mizorowski can strike out the world. I question Ohtani's innings accumulation. With Sanchez, he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. I think it's almost inarguable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move to the Tigers real quick. The Tigers, we probably could have asked you 3 days ago, are they trading Skubal? Are they out of it? And then all of a sudden they make this little run here, surprisingly, against Tampa Bay, which I did not see coming. But I genuinely don't see Detroit in this long term. I think that was just a nice little bump for them. I do like their manager, and I do like their team. Jack, I can't figure out why this team has been one of the worst in baseball this season.
They're waiting on the homer, man. It's as simple as that. Like, they're waiting on Kerry Carpenter or Riley Green or Spencer Torkelson or Gleyber Torres to hit a home run. And sometimes you need a grand slam. Sometimes you need a 3-run homer, and it's just not coming right now. Those are the teams that are really scary. You think about Minnesota 5-6 years ago, they were just waiting on slug, and that can get you to the postseason. It really doesn't win you games in the postseason. They've got a serious decision there with Skubal. It seems like they are trending towards trading him. And if they trade him, that's the best rental trade package we have ever seen if he looks good coming off of these loose bodies and he's back in the big leagues.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, Jack, I know you got a big broadcast coming up this weekend. So do I. So I will see you at the ballpark this weekend for the Citrus Series when the Marlins take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Thanks for spending some time with us. And we'll also watch the Just Baseball show, of course, here on SportsGrid. Thanks again for coming on.
No, it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Craig. Appreciate it.
All right, Jack McMullen here with us. We will take a quick time out here on the show. We'll come back next and wrap things up here for this Friday edition of NewsWire. Don't go away.
terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. The baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
We got some breaking news in the NFL. Not that this is imminent or definite, but it does appear that there is progress being made that could potentially send the Chicago Bears to Indiana. That's right. ESPN reports that looks like some land could potentially go the Bears' way. They've been unable to secure anything in the Chicagoland area. And so they could actually play their home games in the state of Indiana, being called the Chicago Bears. Now, it's not all that far, but still bizarre that they wouldn't be able to get anything in their home state, considering the Bears are one of the iconic franchises in the history of football. I don't know. I think things will get settled somehow. I think things will get figured out. All right, congratulations to Texas softball team. They end up winning back-to-back national championships. In fact, they faced off with in-state rival Texas Tech in the softball College World Series and beat them for the second straight year and ended up sweeping them. So with the College Baseball World Series coming up here in a week or two, we did crown a college softball champion, and once again, congratulations to the Texas Longhorns, who end up taking it home. As we wrap up the show today, we get into some more World Cup discussion and a whole lot more, so let's get started. It's the Friday edition of Last Licks. All right, so FIFA is changing things up a little bit for the World Cup. No surprise, a lot of big changes coming this year. They've unveiled a new vision for pre-match ceremonies at the FIFA World Cup, designed to deepen the connection between players and fans and elevating the moment in anticipation. These are their words, not mine. Players will no longer line up in two parallel lines before kickoff. How about this, folks? Instead, both teams, including substitutes, will form circles in their own half of the pitch. How about that? No lines, just circles. The national anthems will then be displayed with two giant national flags, as you can see there, displayed across each half of the field. What's funny is that the World Cup is like less than a week away, and we're just finding out about this stuff now. I wonder if the players know. I mean, I guess it's easy for them. They just go out and form a circle as opposed to a line. But yeah, I mean, the World Cup is here, folks, and we're going to have a lot of coverage on it. In fact, in this time slot, beginning next Thursday. So we'll tell you more about that next week. All right, the Chicago Cubs yesterday came back. I was on social media late yesterday. Everyone was complaining again about the Cubs. No one ever wants to let games play out. and they did yesterday. The Cubs are the only team in the last 50 years to have 7 players who came into the inning batting .250 or worse in that inning that they came back to get hits in the bottom of the 9th to walk it off. I'm going to run it through for you, but you could see it there as well. Michael Bush, .242. Ian Happ, .233. Nico Horner, .250. Ballesteros, .230. Suzuki, .239. Wow, Dansby Swanson's hitting .180 this season? I didn't even know that. .180. And then Pete Crow Armstrong hitting .242. The A's took a early lead. I believe it was 6-0. And then the Cubs came all the way back and ended up walking them off. It's been one of the more bizarre seasons in baseball, with the Cubs winning 10 in a row and losing 10 in a row. But yeah, that's where they're at. Okay, the All-Star Game is coming up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I love going to the Baseball All-Star Game, as many of you know, usually go during that time. Unfortunately, got to sit this one out this year because got to work. Life gets in the way of things. But in Philadelphia this year, there's a signature food item at the All-Star Game. They've got the Liberty Stack. How about that? It's a buttermilk hot chicken thigh placed on a brown butter maple glazed donut. Why do we keep getting into chicken and donuts on this show? With peach bourbon something, aged cheddar, and pickled Fresnos. Yeah, this is too complicated for me. They also have an ice cream sundae. By the way, the Philly ice cream is amazing. And that is vanilla soft serve with crushed vanilla wafers, peanut brittle, hot fudge, strawberry sauce, toasted marshmallow. I'm into that. And then the hot dog is a Wagyu beef frank laid out on a toasted pretzel dog, which they have there. I've had that before. And laid out on a crispy shallot, micro mustard greens. There's a lot of ingredients in this. But I can say, having been to Philadelphia for the playoffs several years ago for in that stadium, Citizens Bank Park, it's an awesome venue. And I'm sure the All-Star Game is going to be amazing. But this year, because of work, I'm going to be sitting at home watching the All-Star Game on that Tuesday night. That will be a fun event. But at least we have the World Cup going on during that time, too. This is like the first summer in July we're actually going to have action in July, because the Stanley Cup will be over, the NBA will be over, but we will have World Cup to talk about here on the show. All right, that'll do it for our program today. Thanks to our great guests, as always, here on the show, especially Adam Kaufman, Sam McQuillan, and Jack McMullen. They were all in our program today. Want to thank them. Thanks to Tommy and Frank and Chris, our crew. Always a fantastic job this week and every week here on NewsWire. I'll see you back Monday for our next edition of the show, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks for watching.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all 4.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.